Hey, leader, 10 years ago, we put out a book called Figure That Shift Out. We're celebrating the 10-year birthday with 10 stories of transformation of people who went through Figure That Shift Out and experienced a completely new level. They didn't get there by pushing harder in the pressure. They learned how to see clearly who they are in the best and worst of moments. We could say how they could relax into their brilliance. Listen in on these stories as you consider what might be possible for your own transformation. My friends, welcome to the podcast. We're in this new series celebrating 10 years of Figure That Shift Out, 10 stories of transformation. Woo! And I got to pick people I wanted to interview for this. And I get to introduce you guys to truly someone who I have shared some of my most vulnerable secrets with, from walks during the crazy times when we weren't supposed to be together in person, to so many shared moments. So, Mike Clouse, welcome to the podcast. So glad you're here today. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell the world a little bit about what you do?
Hmm. Thank you, first and foremost, for the invitation. Humbled, honored. Um, and Mike Klaus got into coaching, leadership, executive, and let's face it, it all comes down to life coaching at some point and in places and spaces, right? Since 2011, when I found the profession of coaching, working for a wonderful company, 31 Gifts. And after 6 years there, jumped out and doing it on my own, which really meant having my own shingle, but gathering around me amazing coaches, colleagues, and others in similar space. Uh, None of the least of which is my good friend Chris. I came to Chris in 2016, right at the beginning, 2016, 2017, right towards the beginning of getting out on my own. So,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's been that long. And the work I love, I guess I've got a tagline, right? They can be corny, but corny or not, they hopefully encapsulate what we love most about what we do. And mine is um, doing the hard work of supporting leaders and learners of leaning in to more effectively lead out.
Ooh, I love that, man. That's beautiful. And nobody we'll tell the lore of this podcast uh sometime on how I'm coming in hot into Mike's schedule and like no preparation, dude. You're just speaking from your
No
bones on
preparation,
this.
man. Chris is like, dude, are you free?
He didn't know
Sure.
this was happening. It was in my plan, and I failed to set it up with him, and we ended up texting. And so clearly, that's coming from your heart. Well, with somebody like you, who'd already been coaching, who'd been in the space, like the question obvious to my brain is, why would you need something? What were you wanting? What was kind of the desire for more or pain point that you said, I'm going to go through, figure that shift out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so many different layers to that. Thinking that's been a while ago, right? But so many different layers that are still very fresh. Number one, being a coach, daily, I get to see the impact and be a part of the impact that coaching has when two people enter into it with open heart,
Mm,
desire to learn and grow, courage and vulnerability, right? All those things. So as a coach, I'd be crazy not to have a coach. How can I how can I do something that I'm not investing in
mm,
myself in some way, shape, or form? So that was one. Two, I didn't start my own coaching practice because I wanted to own my own enterprise or build my own kingdom or whatever, making it sound dramatic. I started my own coaching practice because I felt like I finally figured out what I was created and called to do,
mm,
or at least something that aligned with calling.
mm,
And the only way, changes were happening in different spaces and where I was in the corporate world. And the only way I knew to stay in the space that I loved and felt like I could have an impact beyond myself was to get out on my own.
mm,
Had no idea what that really entailed, but
mm,
just felt strongly enough that that's where I was supposed to go. So the second piece of it is I wanted and I needed help to figure out what am I going to do if I'm coaching on my own? What do I hang my hat on? What's a framework? How do I build a framework? Kind of got the cart before the horse, started my business before I figured all that out.
Mhm.
And Chris, my cousin Jay Clouse, who others watching this may know, could not quit talking about the impact that working with you
Mm.
had on his whole life, not just his work and his mission, but life in general. So I started following Chris, I started following you, and I really liked what I was reading. Finally decided to reach out and to talk to you about hiring you as my coach. And that very first coffee we had to explore, I won't get into all the details of the conversation, but it was obvious to me that I was in the right space
Mm.
and that with your heart, your background, your heart, and just some of the commonalities we had, that it just where I needed to be, and you're
Wow.
who I needed to be working with.
Mm.
And then about 4 weeks into the coaching, I'm going through the figure that shift out framework to help me figure out what shift I need to make and framework. It was just obvious. It was like, Chris, it's not a framework that I need to figure out how to, this is the framework. It's not one about figuring out which one to build. This is the framework. This is the
Mm.
work I want to do with people. This is
Mm.
foundational. This is transformational. Um, this leads to all the other kinds of questions
Mm.
and things that people are seeking a coach for. So
Dude,
about 4 weeks in, it was like, this is it. It's not building a framework. This is the framework.
wow, dude,
And
thank
the rest is kind of history, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get into some of
I'll
that.
stop there.
No, it's so encouraging and it's really sweet to reminisce too and think about like that era of time and where my office was and that part of town. And I
Mhm.
have such a memory of meeting with you and doing our sessions at a local
Yep.
spot there. And it's just powerful. And that for me was like watching you lean in and do the work when you already were so aware and had so much advancement already, so rewarding. And oh, if we could have had the IFQ back then, right?
Oh, no kidding.
But
Yeah.
since then, how has the framework served you? Like what was happening around the time after you finished the coaching, I should say, that you were like, okay, I can see transformation continuing to unfold. What comes to mind with that?
The immediate result was instead of going through this long, arduous process of trying to create something new,
Mm.
I'm going to use your words here, right? One of the things I remember about our original conversation is what you shared and what I appreciated on so many levels was that sight shift, figure that shift out is not a discover, not a creation of something new as much as it was a rediscovery of what's true.
Ooh, yeah.
And there was a level of humility and power in that that struck me right off the bat, right? So there was that. And then for me, the next level of that was I didn't have to create something that's new. Here's something that's powerful. It's not a lockstep. This is what you have to do. This is who you need to be. It was a framework that um, allowed to meet people both where they're at and
Mm.
help them get to where they want to be without any kind of formulaic. There's definitely structure, framework, truth, principle, exercises, right? But it's about helping someone discover who they are, who
Yeah.
they want to be, and what they want to do about it now that they've figured it out, right? I'm
Oh man.
oversimplifying there.
No, that was perfect. And I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no, well, just that, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have to create something new. So
Yeah.
immediately I had a framework to dive into and to add so much more power and flexible structure to the coaching I was already doing.
Mm.
And it allowed me to go through it over and over and over and over again myself, right? I went through it with you. You helped and certified me. So I went through it by taking someone else. And then every time I get to lead someone else through it, I get to go through it all over again. Because as again, words you shared, it's a college or a university we never graduate from. It's just
Hmm.
expanding to the edge of our abilities and then expanding beyond that.
Right on. I love it. I love it. You brought out two really powerful things that, I can't think of as I've been doing these 10-year interviews that have come out. So it's really special, unique episode. One, that it's not a process telling you who to be. It's helping you discover who you are. And
Mhm.
I, as well as I know you, it's like you would feel gross doing that. Like you're doing violence to people. And so often we can't help people very well when the tools we use helped us, but then we're that cliche, got a hammer in the hand and everything's a nail.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and I know that's not who you are. And then second, just this idea that yeah, it's never done. We keep growing into awareness. And dude, like that's a little cheat code that I don't mind saying on these episodes, like, oh, I get to take somebody to figure that shift out. Heck yeah. I mean, it's
Hmm.
going to be an honor to serve in their story, but I'm going to get more. I'm going to
Yep.
be transformed more.
Yeah.
So yeah, so with you being certified now and
Right.
have been for years, one of our top coaches, I mean, I hear it from people all the time, the experience they have with you. What has you excited about like Sight Shift's future and continuing to do figure that shift out with others?
Um, because it continues to grow. The
Mm.
more, so many reasons, right? The first thing that comes right off the top of my head is it continues to grow. You mentioned earlier, too bad we didn't have the IFQ back when you and I were going, right? Yes, and
Yeah.
right, the fact that we didn't,
Yeah.
I love that it's helped me internalize and have a process. So, example, I went for almost a year, not quite, thinking my core identity fear was fear of poor performance.
Mm.
And the more I leaned into it, the more I, went about it, the more I told you and shared it with you, you helped me kind of go back and we discovered that was more likely the fear of not belonging,
Mm.
right? That was so helpful then, recognizing that I went almost a year thinking it was one thing and it was most
Mm.
likely another, helped me realize that's all part of the process too. That wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
There was nothing lost at all
Mm.
in that year of thinking it was this because I was still aware. I knew what proving and hiding was all about. I was still asking the questions.
Mm.
There was nothing lost. It not only helped me in continuing to gain my skills and helping people determine what fear narratives are they're struggling with, but it also helped me develop a level of humility and recognition that it's okay if we don't nail it perfectly, but just understanding of what they all are and how they show up. And now with the IFQ down the road, we recognize, guess what? It may shift.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's very possible when I started, it was fear of poor performance. Right. And because we leaned into it, it shifted
Mm.
away from that and more towards something else. And I'm not doing it justice by talking about it,
This is
but
awesome.
but like all of that to say, what this continues to do, what I'm excited about is it continues to grow. And
Mm.
it's not a, oh, we messed up. It's a, ooh, we've got even more information. And it's less about becoming perfect, but it's more about being more impactful,
Yeah.
right? And being more effective in helping people discover, not just become aware, but what the heck do I do with that awareness once I have it? Um, and the more I get to take people through it, I'm constantly reminded, not just by the process and the framework, but by you, because I can share with you that when we run into moments where we feel like we've forgotten everything we've learned, again, it's less like we've forgotten everything we learned, and it's more like, oh, I've just walked into a new room of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Or a bigger room. Maybe it's the
Mm-hmm.
same room, but now it's been remodeled and expanded, and I've got to apply what I've learned in new, different, bigger situations.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. Like these last few years have been a real challenge for me, and I've spent my time beating myself up, which I'm getting. I think I'm starting to work my way out of. Um, and I'm recognizing where, right, the process and the learning and the growth has been there all along, and I'm starting to recognize what really is a gift, even though it can be painful, is where I've even shortchanged the process in my own journey with
Yeah.
figure that shift out, if that makes sense. I didn't sit with a pain
Yeah.
long enough to let it do its work. And now I'm being invited, if I can say it that way, back into some of these spaces. Um, to
And go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, please, I'd like to hear what your thoughts
Yeah.
are.
Well, I picture like clearly everybody listening can hear, oh my gosh, this guy knows it deep. He's a guide. He's an
Mm.
experienced guide, and new levels bring new devils, new parts of the house.
Mhm.
And I would say, for those listening, it's like, look at us. Like, we struggle too. We do the
Yeah.
work too. And we're not having perfectly arrived. We've just done the work to be able to guide others and get ahead of where they are. But we
Yeah.
got our new stuff we're working through.
Oh,
And I just think like that hasn't, I'm so glad that came out in this episode and you embody that. And so for people that would want to connect with you and go, clearly this guy has knows the terrain, where would they best go to connect with you?
couple places you can connect with me. My website is leadlight, all one word, LEADLIGHT.com. My coaching practice is Leadlight Coaching and Consulting. So at leadlight.com. And really, even more than that, the best place to connect with me would be at my email address, which is Mike Clouse Coaching, all one word. Clouse is my last name. So Mike Clouse Coaching at gmail.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Guys, I can't say enough about who Mike has been for me. He's been a space that I know I can say it and I won't be judged and I'll be supported. I won't be high-fived in my dysfunction. Mike, dude, what a curveball to throw at you today. Thank you for being here. For
My
those
pleasure.
listening, we're passionate about this because we know what's possible and hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening in as we dove into the story of transformation. As someone went through Figure That Shift Out, we're celebrating 10 years, 10 stories, and I don't want it just to be something you listen to. Explore what might be possible. Imagine how far you might go in your leadership. And join one of our Figure That Shift Out coaching groups, work with one of our certified coaches. I look forward to hearing about the transformation that you go through as a result of Figure That Shift Out.